Welcome, everybody, to the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. My name is Nicole Greer, and they call me the Vibrant Coach. And today I have another vibrant person on the podcast today. In fact, he's been a client of mine and also just a great, great person to hang out with. You're going to be laughing and having a good time. And I have none other than Rabbi Moskowitz with me today. So let me tell you about Rabbi Mike, as I get to call him. Most often, you can find him out in the community, engaged with his congregants, whether naming a child, studying together over coffee, delivering dinner at a homeless shelter in Detroit, performing a wedding for a young couple he's known since bar mitzvah, making a hospital visit, or getting together for a bite to eat. For Rabbi Mike, Judaism is the building of relationships, connecting with one another through the time we share together at Temple Shur Shalom. He has grown this. It's his mission. He's gone from 500 families when he came there in 1995 to over 900 families today. He's a student of progressive values and innovation, and Rabbi Mike is game for trying new ideas and programs to celebrate Judaism and create holiness in people's lives. From the dozens of Israel trips with teens and families to Shur Shalom's retreat with the youth, wherever he finds himself with his congregants, there are always opportunities to live one of his favorite teachings. Don't miss this: to make the old new and the new holy. He's blessed that Temple Shur Shalom has been a gift in helping him live this vision since day one. And from his roots in St. Louis to the Gothic playground of Duke University. Yes, that's right. All my North Carolina friends, he's got roots here in North Carolina. When he was at Duke University to even Hebrew Union College, each step of his journey has crystallized this passion while he lives this every day. If he's not with his congregants, there's a pretty good chance you can find him with his wife, Leslie, or their children, Ellie, Asher, and Nathan. Please welcome to the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast, Rabbi Mike. How are ya?
Excellent. Good to be a part of that and share in hearing the introduction and being with you. I'm thinking back to like Jerry Maguire when everyone was nervous to get on that ESPN show and they'd all start crying, that they knew that Nicole was going to make you cry sometime in the podcast. It's going to happen. Unexpectedly, you're going to bring in the question.
No, no, I'm not gonna make you cry at all. In fact, ever since the first time I ever sat down with Rabbi Mike, I have just been laughing because the guy has a serious sense of humor. And I'm curious, where do you think you got that from? We were talking about that you had a brother, and I alluded to talked about your mom a little bit. So, what is the story? How'd you get this fantastic sense of humor?
Thank you for enjoying that. Some might argue with you about a sense of humor, but I think part of my mission is just to live with joy and to always have that. And yes, it's in my DNA, but it was in the home I grew up in. It's in the family I've been blessed to create. And so in everything I do, I make that a priority. So is it always intentional? No. But is it purposeful in what I want to do and what I'm thinking of doing? Yes. So
That's so good. That's so good. Well, we work together because you have a real heart for making sure that not only do the people that, come to your temple, people who are your members, your congregants, but you wanted to make a really great, an experience for the people that work there. And so some people might be thinking, now what's this guy do? He's a rabbi in a temple. Like this isn't your normal corporate guest, Nicole. But I just want to say that, I think having a heart for building a culture where people really enjoy their work is huge. How did you come to this place where like I'm going to get a mission, a vision, I'm going to use traction, I'm going to have employee handbooks, I'm going to do the whole thing. How did that all come about?
great question. Pretty organically, I'd say, in who we are and what we want to be. Partly just because listening to what people need and having my staff emulate what we want in the congregation. I mean, I think one of the coolest things about being a rabbi is you get to do so many different things and every day is different. And the opportunities that arise are unique and engaging and also relationship driven. And so I'm very, very lucky to have been a rabbi in the same congregation for 30 years. So the relationship have
Crazy.
been with me for a long time, right? And I think that's part of who I am and what I want to do in connecting with people. But I want that with our staff too. And so a number of years ago, I guess it was like 6 years ago, before the pandemic, we realized we've grown more as a community and we have to sort of operate with a business head on, but at the same time, still keep that Hamisha, that that intimacy that we so treasure, and how can we balance those things? And so that's when we adopted the idea of really looking at metrics and who we are and how we're going to help one another. And then looking at core values. Temple Shir Shalom started in 1988 with a mission statement. And I don't think in the 80s synagogues were doing that. You see a lot of them having it today, but not many did. And it came out of a place of like knowing intentionally who this community wanted to be with my founding rabbi, Rabbi Daniel Schwartz of blessed memory. And so we sort of built on that. We've innovated and recreated our mission and made it a little more relevant to who we saw and what we wanted. And then what we added to that now was really these core values that we wanted to bring to our staff, but our congregation, 900 families, understand too, as so essential to who we are.
That's so good. That's so good. And, here's the thing, when you put a value in place and people embrace it and they start to live it out, now we've got all these beautiful behaviors and it teaches us how to be in community together. And you've got some fantastic core values. So Rabbi Mike uses traction, which is a entrepreneurial operating system that most organizations like a corporation would put in or a small business would put into action, but he's implemented it into his temple so that he has a very structured way that he looks at how he's going to move the vision forward. And a part of that is coming up with a 10-year plan, a 3-year plan, and then a 1-year plan where you're working on your quote unquote rocks quarter by quarter by quarter. I think folks listening would be surprised that you guys are like this organized and this dialed in to the future. But I mean, the mission is that we want to bring people to God. We want them to have this beautiful faith-based community. I think it's such a neat combo you guys are doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was fun last week. We had a board retreat. So, and I don't have a huge board. So 16 board members, myself, my colleague, Rabbi Daniel, my executive director, sitting together and sort of hashing through these things. And so we're, as the executives of the community, we're the ones sort of putting all the pieces together. But the board didn't know what we saw as the 1, 3, 10-year plans and that VTO or our vision traction organizer and going through all that with them. And so making sure we were all on the same page and they liked what we had created, but also, and seeing that emulating what we saw our community as, but also saying, okay, now how do you see us getting to that 10-year spot? Here's what we're thinking. What do you think? And we did a great exercise where we all
Mm,
talked about, okay, what is the marketing to get us there? What is, how does that hold on to our mission? How do we make sure we don't lose that mission if we were to grow even more? What's that real number going to be? Right. And some of those things are our membership numbers. Some of those things are our budget numbers. Some of those things are how many congregants have we taken to Israel, have been to Israel with us? How
mm.
many have traveled with us? Because like traveling together is a great experience to
Oh
have
yeah,
as a
bon, bon, bon.
community, right? And so I did a trip to Italy last year with adults that was a Jewish lens of Italy. And yeah, it was a lot of wine and a lot of food and a few more vineyards that we visited, and then some Jewish stuff too. Like there's great Jewish history. And so we made sure we had it all, but it was just a spectacular. And building off that, I've done these trips in Israel for years, and
Yeah,
they're similar. I mean, you're living Judaism when you're in Israel, and I know Israel is important for the non-Jewish world, for the Christian community, and people,
absolutely.
appreciate that. I always take my people to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre to see the importance of that. But for us, it's natural and it works so well. But more than that, the relationships that develop in these trips. So now I have a Israel trip planned and within next year, but now I also want to have one to Portugal, the Jewish experience in Portugal, which has amazing history. And I'm also excited because I've never been to Portugal.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I have a great team that's helped me work on that, and I have people who are already interested. So I'm excited.
Oh, that's so good. I just went to Portugal in December, January over the
Mm,
holidays. And I'm gonna tell you something. I'm so sad I didn't get to Porto. Please make sure you go there. Everybody says, "Did you go to Porto?" And I'm like, "No." But
okay,
I went to Lisbon and then we went up on the hill. Oh, what's the name of that city up there? It's where all the mansions are. All the rich people from Lisbon would go up on the mountain and they would build their castles up there. It's crazy. You're gonna have the best time. And there will be wine and great food. Don't worry.
okay, there you go. Makes everyone happier.
That's
Well,
right. Oh,
you
that's
know,
right. Breaking the bread together. That's right.
yes. Well, it's like people need to find way. Our world is filled with tension and fear and challenge
Yes.
and anxiety. And if all we do is watch the news, we're going to be immersed in that and we can't move beyond it. So I want Temple to be sort of a sanctuary around that helps us process these things, but also reminds us that we have blessings still in our life and that we have
100%.
responsibility to fix the other things, to work on the other things. There's a line in Jewish law in the Talmud that I live by that Rabbi Tarfon taught. It's lo alecha hamachali more. I won't ask you to translate. I'll do that for you. So it's
Easy for you
not
to say.
right, right. It's not your duty to finish it's not your responsibility to finish the task, but you're not allowed to stop from trying to finish it. Like we have so much work to do. There's so
Oh, yeah. The
much
world is a hot
challenge.
mess. That's for darn sure.
Right. And so we will engage and work on that, but we know we won't ultimately be able to do it all, but let's not stop trying. And as we do that, like, let's make this community, this healthy place, a place where people can be themselves and be, authentic and sincere. And so we started doing something for services. And granted, it's a way to bring people in, and so it's the second Friday of every month. Last year we did something and there was a theme, but it really became like a special cocktail service. And so I would craft a cocktail and get the bartend after services, and we'd all get to enjoy that together. And there was some teaching that went along with it, and there were services first, but people just appreciate the opportunity to be together. And that's what it's about, building community.
That's right. Which you could just go equal sign culture, right? All right.
Right.
So
Yes.
as you were putting together your vision and everything, so I like to throw in a little, my thoughts on things. So like, vision is like this is where we're going. In 10 years, this is
Hmm.
what it'll look like. It's a picture of the future. But we do a mission statement, which is like how we're going to behave and be together as we're going on that path to the vision. And then the core values, they give us something to hang on to and tell us how we need to move in the world. So you've got some pretty cool core values. So will you kind of walk us through how did you do your core value process? Because a lot of companies are like, we need to zhuzh up our core values because they got stuff like I don't know, excellence, or respect, and it's like that's been on the wall since 1994. We got to do something fresh, and you've got some freshy fresh stuff. So tell me how you did your process and share your values with us.
I'll Well, the process was that Rabbi Daniel Schwartz and me and Brian Fishman, my executive director, and our consultant, from EOS, sat together and brainstormed and talked about who we are, what do we want to be, and it was probably half a day, and then we, sort of wordsmithed it for a while, and then put it aside, and then came back to it, later on and fine tuned it, and that was the beginning of the process, and we've even fine tuned since then. So, like initially, it was just that dream big, and now the first core value is dream big and in full color.
Mm,
And so, for me, that's who our community is. When this congregation started, it was 30 families that came to my older colleague who said, "We want you as our rabbi," and he said, "No." And he said, "Maybe if you have 100." And then it was 100 families, and then it was 400 families, and everyone said there wasn't a need for another congregation. And we've proven with the idea of just believing in this and trying anything. Sometimes we joke around and say smoke and mirrors. Like we don't know how we're going to get it done, but we believe in it, and we have an idea. And let's try it. What's the worst thing that happens? It doesn't work.
that's
So
right.
that's the dream. That's the dream big for us. Our second core value is that we roll up our sleeves, that we're willing to go above and beyond, whatever it takes to get things done. And I always like, and I think you've reminded me of this too, like the stories that go along with these core values. So a great example of that was there was a flood here about a decade ago in one neighborhood, and it really devastated the community. It was like a shock.
Hmm.
It was one of these weird Detroit floods that happened where the highways backed up and people losing their cars. And this one neighborhood, Huntington Woods, was everyone's home was flooded. And it was, I think, Tuesday night or Wednesday night. And so Rabbi Daniel and I showed up on Friday afternoon. So our Shabbat, our services are Friday night. And these are people just overwhelmed. And thank God, there weren't lives lost. It was just property, but out of their homes and just the difficulties of
Right,
that. And
devastation.
so,
Mhm.
right. So we just showed up with little gift bags that had a bottle of wine, had candles for Shabbos, and had challah, the traditional bread we eat on Friday night, and
Mm,
just said, "We're just thinking of you. We're here to give you a hug and just whatever we can do to help." And just like someone said, "How do you have time?" We had 44 member units, 44 families who lived in this area. How do you have time? We're like, you know what? It was a need, and you just take care of it and you do it, right?
that's right.
So, and I've learned, and probably for me, I wanted to be a camp director. That's why I became a rabbi, because my role model was a rabbi and a camp director. I know those things usually don't go together, but, and so I love camp because camp, again, is like the greatest place on earth, all joy, fun. You're outside all the time. It's just great. And when I reach like the highest level of staff at camp, right under the camp director, you do everything. Like I have like, I remember our pool at camp was leaking and camp was about to start. The director and I got the special putty that you and I could hold my breath really long. Hidden talent, right? And so with weights on me, I'm at the bottom of the pool, like plugging the stuff in, and
The
doing this. And
kids
people are
gotta
looking up,
swim.
right, like whatever it takes, like what do I know what I'm doing? And then we got out, and remember the putty's all waterproof, right? And so this is 1994. The putty's all waterproof, and so guess what? It doesn't come off your hands. So we're driving down the street to the pharmacy to find out what you can get off it, but get the stuff off your hands. But the ridiculous nature of this, but it's like whatever it takes, we're to get it done. And I still, I fix toilets here at Temple. I don't fix them well, but if it's no one's there, I'm gonna take care of it. Right? You got you. And we all
Flushing.
right. And I hope that our members see that, but the staff sees that and all appreciates that. There's nothing that, oh my God, I'm the rabbi. I can't do that. Right. We all need to. And I appreciate people who want to do that with us. Our third core value is that we save you a seat, that
Mm.
everyone is included here, that everyone belongs. And that's a really important statement for us that, that people feel that sense of belonging and connectedness and stuff. And so, there was a number of years ago, there was a young woman, a girl, she was probably like third grade at the time. And other religious schools said, it's not going to work for her here because she had a lot of challenges and, a lot of difficulties and couldn't make it through a class ever and stuff. And so physical and emotional and mental. And so, but I said to the parents, so listen, we're going to try anything. If you're patient with us and you tell us what works and what doesn't work, and we'll give her a shadow to be with her. And I remember we have a great song we finish every Sunday morning with, and we're just a song of joy, which is about our responsibility to make the world a better place and singing it in Hebrew, but with words also na na. We're all waving our hands. And this little girl always had her hands up singing and loving it. And
Mm.
it was amazing that she felt that connection, that love and belong. And like everyone's better because of that. She had a
Oh,
great
that's right.
experience. Her,
Everybody thinks,
her
"Oh, people can change."
Right. Her
Right.
peers were good, right? And took care of her and helped and stuff like that too. And yeah, I'll just, like the sadness when I think of her is that she died a few years ago because
Oh.
she had a heart transplant as an infant, and you outgrow your heart, right? When you get a heart transplant like that. And so
Mhm.
she wasn't a candidate for one as a teenager. And so she died in I was 16 or 17. But I still see those videos of her coming up and people talk to me about Shay, and I remember her presence with us. So she blessed me. I think we learned that way.
Mm.
And our last,
That wow, man, we could unpack that for like 7 hours.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
That's a big one right there. And let me just say this too is that sometimes, y'all that are listening to Rabbi Mike, I mean, you'll bring somebody on staff or you'll have some customer and we want to sit around and judge and do all these things and what's wrong with this person and whatever. But don't miss what Rabbi Mike said. Save a seat for this person. Let's find out what's right with them. Let's see what we can do. So such a beautiful, beautiful story. I love that. I don't want you to go past it too quickly because that's a big deal. Sometimes I work with a lot of engineers, Rabbi Mike, and every year there's a fresh group that comes into whatever organization, the engineers. And there's always one that's just a little different. And he just doesn't have the skills yet, like the soft skills, the people skills, and like you got to be patient. You got to teach. It's not everybody got what you got coming up, you know? So
Yeah.
say, invite people to sit down next to you. Like, hey, let me help you. Really
Well,
huge.
I live that all the time. I try to, especially. And there's a line in Jewish law and Talmud 2,000 years ago, and Nicole Tamidai Hiskalti from all my students I learned, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I really and I my professor of blessed memory, Dr. Jacob Rader Marcus, who was the founder of American Jewish history. He died at the age of 99.
Wow.
I was the last thesis he signed in 1995.
Oh,
And I remember, and he was from West Virginia. So he always had this drawl. I walk in, Mosh, wax. And if you were lucky, you became one of his boys. He had no family, he outlived everyone. And so I would, in my last year of rabbinical school, I'd sometimes take him to a doctor's appointment and so I go to meet with him about my thesis. And he'd say, Squats, and tell me I got to take him to a doctor the next day. Great. And I remember one of the last times we were going over my thesis, he said, we call him Tommy Dye, he's scalty, which from all my students I've learned. So for him to say it to me, I'm like, yikes, like, wow, I got to hold on to that. And I always do. And I think of that, but I think of that in like how much we have to learn. And
oh my
it's in
gosh.
those places that are unexpected and the people who give us these gifts and help and remind us to slow down and just it's so important.
Yeah, and I bet in the counseling you do with your congregants, your members, and then also like in my coaching, some people will say to me, they'll be like, "Why is this happening to me?" I'm like, "That is an excellent question.
Yeah.
Sit with
Yeah.
that for a minute."
Yeah.
Don't use it like off the cuff or rhetorically, but like really think about that. Why is
Yeah.
this happening to me? Because what's the lesson? And you said her name was Shay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the lesson in Shay? I mean, I can see about six right off the bat, but I know there's more than that. And then the other thing I want to say about don't miss that Rabbi Mike has like a philosophy or a theology that he draws on all the time. So how does that relate to, my small business or corporate America or whatever? It's like you do need to figure out what you believe in as a leader and then draw on that belief system. And so I just love how he's got all this stuff memorized, y'all. Don't miss that. So what do you need to memorize about your leadership that you're going to hold close, and when things happen you're like, oh, I'm pulling that one out, right? So that's a very good lesson you're showing right there too, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for pointing that out and reminding me of that.
Well, you're
Right.
welcome.
Well, yeah, I guess it is
Uh,
memorized. I didn't and the fourth core value for us is we dance in the aisles is all
which
about
is
joy.
so dang fun.
Right. We want to I mean, I want work to be fun. Again, I've always believed that if it feels like work, then something's not good. Something's not right. And so we want this to be a place that yeah, and I interrupt myself now. There are super heavy times and
Oh
difficult
yeah.
times
Oh yeah.
and times of overwhelming challenge for us, for families. I mean, look, one of the greatest gifts that I'm brought in the ultimate heights of joy for families and in the depths. I was crying under the wedding canopy with the bride and groom on Saturday night doing a wedding.
Mm.
As there's a part of the ceremony that we wrap them in a prayer shawl. The parents come around and wrap them, and we take a moment of silence to think of those who are no longer here. And this young woman's dad died right before she met her fiance, her
Oh,
husband. And she had said to me privately, I know how much my dad would have loved him. And he is such my dad's kind of guy. And it makes me feel so good that I found him and we have each other. And so I could tell that story to them and they're both crying. And now I'm crying. Oh my God, it's like Jerry Maguire. Now I'm going to cry as I tell the story again.
it's okay,
I'm
we'll
the
get a
worst.
tissue.
So, oh, that's I'm in the wrong room. I forgot. I don't have any of my supplies. So the but that idea of being able to draw on that and also see the joy in that too, right? So but we have challenges, but there's so much that's good in these moments that are important for us. And so I want my staff to appreciate that and never like I never take myself too seriously. And
Which is
that's the
quite
authentic,
lovely, I must say.
yeah. right. So I'm sure there are some congregations I probably wouldn't have done well in when I came out of
Like,
the
he needs to
seminary.
calm down.
Right.
They'd wanna change him.
Yeah. And so my older colleague of blessed memory, pushed me and said, "Do it. Be yourself." And we always had fun together. Sometimes maybe
Yeah.
too much, but
You're bringing up like kind of this really good point about, when I work with leaders like yourself and other folks, is a lot of times they're not shooting for like a legacy. They're shooting for a number. Like we need to make this much revenue, or we need to have this many stores, or whatever the thing is. But what's really beautiful about spiritual communities is that it's always about the generations and the legacy that you leave behind. And tell them what's happening in October. It's October, right?
okay, November.
November.
Yep.
Oh, thank you for helping me.
So,
Okay. So there's going to be so get your plane ticket to Detroit now.
uh,
Buy early.
uh,
It's going to be a major throwdown at the temple. Sure, shalom. So talk a little bit, because I talk to leaders a lot of times, and they're fed up, they're tired, they're worn out, they've burnt out, they've been doing things so long. But it's like, no, no, you're building a legacy
yeah,
of leading a group of people to a better place for a very long time. It's a very, Moses thing.
well, that's humbling. And I say that
Yeah?
sincerely. Yeah, it is. I mean, I feel blessed to have been in this position. So this is my 30th anniversary. I started here July 1st, 1995. And, of all my classmates and friends I was ordained with, I'm the only one in the same position. It's rare. It doesn't happen like this often. So certain communities in Detroit, congregation in Detroit, have that legacy, which is cool. And one down the street does. And when the congregation hired me, they said, if you could envision yourself staying after 3 to 5 years, then let's keep talking. But if you believe that you want to be in your first congregation as an assistant for 3 years and you want to move on, then we don't have to talk much more. And I said, I'm open to anything. Like, again, I want to be a camp director. I'm like, a boy?
That's right.
Okay. I gotta wear a tie. Let's see. So and it felt very comfortable and it worked from day one. Of course, a year into my job here, into my work here, into my calling here, my colleague on the holiest day of the year on Yom Kippur, with the largest crowd in the congregation, announced when Michael takes over the congregation, and I'm like, dude, I haven't committed to this yet. Of course, he had vision. He wanted that
Right.
to
Don't
happen
miss that,
partly so he
everybody.
could take some
Yeah,
more
yeah.
vacation time and he could entrust Temple with me. But very much he was a great mentor and always, I mean, he dreamed big and would push and challenge and was great at that. And so it set it in motion. He retired, I think in 2011 and then formally in 13 and would come back for a service here or there. But it's been my home and I've been able to build on that vision now and hire a colleague who's been my partner now, very much so for the past 17 years. Been great.
That's so good. That's so good. And there's a really good lesson in that little story he told. And one of the things that we talked about when we were doing like kind of our HR audit thing was the power of storytelling. And you're such a good storyteller. Don't miss what he said. He said that Rabbi Daniel,
Daniel,
who was,
it, Dan,
the head of the
Daniel,
oh, say it
Dannel. So
again.
it's a unique name. Never. It's actually Daniel. Yeah, in the book of Ezekiel in the
Daniel.
Bible, the name Daniel once doesn't have the Hebrew letter yud in it, and becomes Daniel, and so it becomes a name in sort of like tradition. But his mother liked it and found it, and it was unique. He, depending when you knew him, some call him Dan, some call him Danny, some called. I always knew him as Daniel, and I was blessed to be with him for 28 years. And Daniel is my young colleague. They both have the same last name, or more. Yeah. And
Okay.
so that's
The
why. So
Dans.
Daniel's our founding rabbi and the creator of Temple. So there you go.
Okay, thank you for straightening me out. That's so good. But listen to what Daniel, there I got it straight there, Rabbi Mike, is that he stood up in front of the whole group, didn't consult Rabbi Mike, and said, "When Rabbi Mike takes over," And one of the things that I see all the time is in these organizations is that there'll be a leader and they'll have somebody in their group, and I'll ask them about employee performance management, which we've talked about, and I'll say, what does he want to do? What is the career path? What can we do to grow them and make them bigger? Here's the employee performance worksheet book, all that stuff. And they'll be like, oh, he doesn't wanna do anything. He doesn't want he's happy right where he is. But don't miss what Rabbi Daniel, he said, "When Rabbi Mike takes over." Okay? And, like, sometimes you have to, and this is more on the spiritual side, but I think it can work in corporate America too, is, like, you need to, like, be prophetic. Like, this is speaking something over somebody's life. Like, "No, this is what he's gonna do." 'Cause sometimes we don't believe, but, like, everybody else around us can see, and you've got to kinda throw it out there for people. So I think that's really
Well, I
powerful
feel
what he
very
did for you.
fortunate. It's worked and it's my home and, we flourished here and things are good, but we have a lot of work to do.
You said earlier that things are tough, and it made me think about, all the things that have gone on in the Middle East and, in Israel when it got attacked and these people are at this concert, and, like, it's just we're just like, "What is going on?" But you've gone back over to Israel and studied and done all that kinda thing, and so it's kind of
Yeah.
been the burden that you all bear, right? So how do you deal with the difficult things? How do you
Yeah.
guys
And
keep
the other,
surviving all
well,
that?
I'm not sure which way or which question you're asking because how do we as a people, how do I as a
Okay.
rabbi, deal with all of this? Okay.
As a leader, let's go through that lens. Yeah, how does you? Because 'cause you've got all these people
Yeah.
worried
And
about it,
and
right? In your
we it's
900.
on October 7th, I remember talking to Daniel, my colleague, and thinking we have to do something. Like, what are we going to do? I don't know. And we didn't even know what the news was at the time. We just knew it was bad. We have Israelis who are members of
Right.
our congregation too, and so we just kept talking, thinking what do need people need right now. And I said, I think we just need to be together. So we didn't put it on Facebook. We just sent an email to our congregation just saying how we were feeling and how worried we were, but that we have each other. So let's gather together on Sunday evening. And for anyone who wants to come to the sanctuary, I think like
Hmm.
225 people showed up. And we offered some prayers, we sang some songs, we just shared how we're feeling, we hugged and cried. We do our high school program on Sunday evenings from 6 to 8 o'clock. So I had a lesson planned that night for high school, but I just sat in a circle with 45 kids at night. What are you guys thinking? What do you know? What's going on? And we never left our circle. We just talked. And they had questions and concerns. And obviously the fear of anti-Semitism in this country, all of this weighing in. And then I had the kids help lead the service and read some of the prayers that we had written or found for the day. And it
Ah.
gave it helped me to know I'm not alone and I don't have to have all the answers. Like that my congregation
Mhm.
supports me as much as I support them. Like people will reach out to me often in these past 2 years, especially, how are you doing? I know you're trying to keep a lot afloat. And just the question makes me feel like, people care. And that I'm not just some employee, but I'm someone who they see as part of their circle and that they want to make sure is okay too. So it goes both directions. And I think that's been a really important thing. I become an advocate for Israel because I am fortunate to go over there so often. And so I spent July there studying. And so my lens becomes something that a lot of people don't get to have firsthand, different than the news, which is often skewed, and sharing that and being really genuine about that too. Even doing some work in the territories in the West Bank with Palestinians, helping Palestinians when I was there as a rabbi, as a Jew, with a group called Rabbis. Well, it's with a
Mm.
group called
Don't miss
Rabbis for
that.
Human Rights, and it was very powerful and difficult seeing the way people are behaving, but seeing the goodness of some of these villages, that these Palestinian Bedouin villages, they're being attacked by settlers, which are a right wing militant group within Israel, and that I don't see as part of my people. Right, the way they behave is not our values, and so
And don't miss
Right.
that. We're right back to values,
So
everybody. So
so
don't miss
being
that.
there, we were helping deliver water, and it was very practical. We were just there as witnesses, just to help and do whatever we could. And there were men, taking the water tanker and putting and 8-year-old boys who were playing, and little kids just running around being kids, happy, and as we were leaving,
Right. Right.
right, and it was just like that was
Dancing in the
like
aisles.
uplifting. We're getting ready to leave, and this woman motioned for us to come into her tent, her hut, and I'm like, what's going on here? And she had, a Turkish coffee pot, finjan, and she just wanted to give us some coffee and say thank you. She was speaking Arabic. We spoke Hebrew and English. It was a group of 5 of us. And so the woman who was leading us, she spoke some Arabic, so she could sort of help as an interpreter. It was just her saying thank you. And so it was very like learn from everyone. Like it was so
Mhm.
humbling, her life, what she's experiencing, her family, going back 100 years on this land near Jericho, just crazy and just so appreciative of us and sincere. And for me to hear this and to feel this and just, yeah, really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. So good. Okay. So this is what I heard him say the answer was is like, yeah, you don't need to have all the answers. You just got to have to show up and serve and then just be delighted by what comes from it. Right. The
I
joy's in
kind of
there.
say, I love
Okay.
how
All
you
right.
translate
So,
my stories that my wife would say are going on and on and on. Michael, cut it short, cut it short, cut it short. So I'm gonna vent out sermons to you, and you're just gonna say, here's the message, Michael. Get to the point. That's good.
No, we're not going to do that. But I just think sometimes people love the story, but they may not take time to
Hmm.
go, What's the nugget?" I'm all about a good nugget, that I can put in my pocket and take away. I think that's really important. Okay. All right. So, look, we just were talking about this huge conflict that's on planet Earth. So, cultures, Rabbi Mike, have conflicts within them, and conflict can be actually okay. I mean, it can be productive. Like, I don't think we should do that. This is what we should do. Oh, no, I'm not sure we should. There's that kind of thing. But every vibrant culture, every culture faces disagreements. What wisdom could you share about addressing conflict? Like, what have you learned about conflict since that's kind of
Where is it
in
coming
the
from?
mix right now?
Like to be able to listen enough to know where that is coming from. And so our
Ooh,
own internal politics, like people always are resistant to change. And so why is that? And I too am a creature of habit and will get in that, frame of mind and have to be sometimes shaken out of it. My wife's really good to do that to me and remind me like, come on, you preach change.
right. God,
Right. Right.
God,
There you go.
thank you for
And
Leslie.
and and to help with that, right? And so understanding why that conflict's existing for them. And so then to sort of address that and try to figure out where are we what because a lot of times it's just the process of it, but the goal is still the same. And so let's just talk that through. So that's for us
Yeah, I
internally
agree.
when we look at our community and what we want, what we need. As far as our world, I yeah, I
Yeah,
it is. It is. I
that's a
mean,
conundrum.
I look, hope is a part of who we are as a people, as a part of Judaism. We are still here, and we have
Mhm.
had challenge after challenge in the history of our world for over 3,000 years. So
Mm.
I love the story that says that the angels are arguing with God, and they say to God, why do you keep like taking care of these people? They're so whiny and they complain and they're
Yeah,
right, right.
the
You're a
angels, the
God of
workers are
judgment,
upset. Yeah.
and yet and they're not following all. Why, God? And he said, they follow one law that even when they eat the tiniest morsel of food, they still say a blessing. Traditional Jewish law says we say a blessing before the meal and after. So
Mm.
it says even if you eat something as small as an olive, you say a blessing. So they could be starving, but they still say a blessing for that little bit of food because it's about gratitude. And so if we hold on to that, it can help us in finding hope in this world. And there are so many teachers around us that do that for me personally, and that I will always remind myself of. And so, like, I often think that every rabbi has one sermon. We just tell it a lot of different ways, right? We all and like we always say like, what's your Torah? What's your one? And no doubt mine is it's about hope. And my children will even like play with me. They're like, okay, Dad, when are you gonna get the hope in the sermon? And because it's gonna be there because that's what we need. And I will not let go of that no matter what is going on in this world,
Yeah.
because there's people who've had it so much more difficult than us who held on to hope and got us to where we are today. So, with that in mind, I believe that Israelis, Jews, and Palestinians and Arabs have to find a way to live side by side.
Yeah, that's good. And isn't that just so applicable to like any, we're talking about conflict. So it's like, how can we live next to each other, respect each other, honor each other, and keep the hope alive that we can work this out. And in our business places, in these workplaces, sometimes Rabbi Michael go in places and like this guy's had a grudge against this guy for for 20 years
Yeah, right, right, right.
or 3,000 years or whatever. It's like right, and it's like, we gotta let that go. Everybody's gotta kinda rise up in the quality of their thinking, the way they hold their emotions, and it is a spirituality in the workplace. A lot of times I'll talk about the 6 energies that a human has, and I'll share it with everybody real quick. Everybody has intellectual energy. How do you think about things? Open-minded, closed-minded, or you have a growth mindset, so intellectual energy. Then there's emotional energy. How do I feel about things, right? And you can choose hope, which will lift you right up the feeling scale. I hope we can do this. I hope it'll work out. I hope they're going to be a good new employee. I hope. That's a really good feeling to have, right? Emotionally. And then spirituality doesn't have to be religious, but it's like, go team. And so there's this feeling of like, I want us to win. I want everybody to win. So that's that. And then there's physical energy, social energy, and then the energy of money. So 6 energies going on there, and we gotta figure out how to figure out the conflicts around all that. All right. Well, I want to ask you this. Well, I
I
got
do.
2 questions for you. Do you have time for 2 more questions? Okay. All right. So here's the next question. Rituals in meaning. Okay. So Judaism has so many beautiful rituals that bring people together. How could leaders more in the secular world create meaningful rituals and rhythms to feel connected and build
Yeah.
this vibrant culture
I
I want
learned
to
in
build?
preschool, my children's preschool, which was a Waldorf education, not Jewish, about rhythm, ritual, and reverence. And that children need that, right? The
Mm,
idea of rhythm helps them structure their time. The idea of ritual is an easy way to hang on to the rhythm. And reverence becomes a part of appreciation of that we're in something bigger than ourselves. And for me, obviously, God is a part of that, but it doesn't have to be. And so I teach it to my families here at religious school. And we talk about that when we're doing family education. But I think for all of us, we benefit from that. And so the idea of creating rhythm in our days helps us. And the ritual around that is so important. So, like for me, prayer is a part of that, right? That and it helps. And so now prayer could be something that involves God or could be just intentionality, right? Prayer in Judaism, prayer is either giving thanks
that's right.
or a petition or asking. So, give me the strength to get through this. Then we go in. I mean, I often think like big meeting, big challenges coming up, you know, really a difficult funeral. God, just give me the strength to be supportive, to be the best I can to help this family. And so that's something that I think that intentionality for me in prayer, but in anything is helpful, whatever you're doing. Right. So I think that's a really important thing. I think the cycle of our week is important for me as a Jew. So the Sabbath, which begins Friday at sundown and Saturday at sundown, is how we tell time. It's my life, right? I have service every Friday night, every Saturday morning, programs all around that. So it's really easy for me to hang my hat on that. But for all of us to have that idea of our week structure makes sense and helps. And I think can really give us something that is, again, that rhythm that helps us find purpose in our days.
Yeah, yeah, and the thing I love so much about the taking off from Friday at sundown to Saturday at sundown is I would remind everybody, like, we have to stop working too at some point, right? We need to rest. And so I know so many people that are on their dang phones and doing email and everything 24/7. And it's like, no, 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 you need to have a
I
day
try, but
off.
I'm the worst.
I mean, just
I fail on this one. I mean, but yeah, but
right. Well, you got to run the
but
show on the day off,
I
right? So that's a challenge,
I
right?
will
For
tell you,
all
I
all
thought
the
of
men of
this, and I
God
told my
and the women of
younger
God.
colleague this the other day because it was Friday night and I was alone here at Temple because it was earlier in my career. My colleague was out of town. I didn't have a young associate at the time. And there was a bar mitzvah that night, and there was some challenges around it and stuff and family dynamics. And I had little kids at home, and all I wanted was like not to leave the house, just to like collapse. And but I had work to do. So I came
Right.
to Temple and I'm sitting back as the child's leading services and the cantor is leading the music. And something is beautiful happened. And it was like this beautiful service. And it became prayerful for me. Like, duh, you're just going through the motions. Like the prayers actually have intent. And you heard it for a moment and it helped. And I felt this great sense of awe and appreciation for what I was getting to be a part of in that moment. So I think like that structure is an important piece of it.
Yeah, and I love what you just said because that's how our work can be anywhere, right? Like you're doing some task you don't feel like doing, and then you get into it, and there's this funny thing. Now you're saying I felt this, this presence, this feeling, but like, in our work, it's called fulfillment. Like you fill up. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is worth it, right? So the tough stuff oftentimes reminds us how lucky we are to be employed where we are, doing the work that we're doing. Okay. Last question. Leadership as service. Okay. So from a spiritual perspective, what does a servant leader look like, and how can today's leaders bring more compassion
Hmm.
to the workplace? What would you advise your secular corporate friends to do? Which he's got a whole congregation full of these people, by the way, you know.
Right. Right. Well, the servant leader is the model that I want to follow, that I want to be. And for me, it's always that the learning opportunities are constantly present and
Mhm.
exist and learn from everyone and being able to listen to everyone. And so I think as the corporate head that exists as well. That everyone on a team should have something to contribute that's going to help you be your better leader, but not just for you, but for the team. That the team succeeds because of that too. I love where other people succeed. I love when, a 13-year-old does much more than they ever thought was possible.
Oh my gosh, so
And at the
delicious.
bar mitzvah, and they like for me, bar and bat mitzvah is not about torturing a child. I think that was that's what it really is. I think it was set up to do. I mean, it's like you're going to learn this cranky old language that no one really speaks except for in prayer and in Israel. And you're a secular Jew for most of the time, but you'll get through it. You'll have no idea what you're saying, and you walk off and there'll be a party and whatever. And like I want a child to have an accomplishment and to know that we rabbis are with them in this journey. And so
Mhm.
when they walk off the pulpit, they feel good about themselves. And somewhere in their head, like, oh, Judaism made me feel good about myself, gave me confidence.
Mhm.
And there are people in that circle who help make that happen too. And so that's just such an awesome experience to have. To watch a teacher teach something that I was able to share with them when they were struggling with a concept or whatever, and seeing them do it much better than I could have done and say, yes, like it took it to that next level, like such a victory. So cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to interpret that one more time, Michael. And so
Please.
he just said sometimes you're just teaching and then you turn around and the person that you're teaching at work, at the temple, wherever it is, and then they take that learning and they just accelerate it. They do it better than you. That's why you got to spend time with your people. That's why you got to have one-on-ones and you got to teach and you got to train and you got to do all the good HR things, learning and development. That's the name of the game. Makes the world a better place. Oh, it's the top of the hour. Do you have one last nugget you wanna share? Do you have, like, one little goodie in your pocket you could just give us to end, like, "Here's the final word from Rabbi Mike."
I have so much that I love sharing.
Yeah?
And so I think that my greatest blessing in this past year is the opportunity to re-engage in learning on a different level. And I found that I was always learning for the next thing I was doing. I was studying for a sermon. I was studying for a class. I was studying to teach. And I forgot the joy in learning for learning's sake. There's a
Ooh,
concept in Judaism called Torah lishma, learning for the sake of just of the tongue, just for being present. And I've been a part of something where I've had that now. And that's why I was in Israel for July. I get to engage with colleagues every other week and no agenda, just to learn. Now, so much of that I take with me, and it's like, wow, it helps. And my congregation's seen that, but it's just learning. And so I think for my teach here is take time to learn. Give yourself that time to, whether it's 15 minutes a week or an hour a week, whatever you do, but to learn for the sake of learning with no agenda, just to learn. And things will happen from there.
I couldn't agree more. Lifelong learner, everybody. All right, everybody. It's been another, I think, delightful, must I say, I mean, just it was delightful episode of the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast with Rabbi Mike. So, Rabbi Mike, if people want to reach out to you, they want to find out more about you and what you're doing and how you're leading your congregation. How can they find you?
Oh, in the show notes, we'll put our website, shearshalom.org,
Oh,
or
he's been
my
listening.
email or at shearshalom.org. We can list my email there as well. If people are interested in connecting. And yeah, I'm on Instagram at Michael Moskowitz and Facebook, all those things. I use those platforms just to promote things at Temple and stuff as well. But yeah, those are always good ways to connect with me too.
Yeah, and if you want to go to a really awesome party in November, it's right on the Sure Shalom website. So 30 years, congratulations. So
Thank
good.
you. Thank
So
you.
good.
Be fun. Yeah. Good times. But few things are as good and as fun as this hour together. Let's just say, come on.
Well, that's true. Yeah, the man speaks the truth. Okay, so everybody do this. Go down right now. It takes a hot second. Click the like button. Tell everybody that you love it. Leave a little love note for Rabbi Mike. And I'm so grateful to you, Rabbi Mike. Thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.